Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going, a weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Back with another episode. This is episode number 428 for the 15th of March, 2026. Here with me, as always, I have my stalwart partners in crime, starting with Mr. DBQ Hams. How you doing, DBQ?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back. Plenty to talk about tonight. GDC and all kinds of other stuff happening as well. So good to be here.
Very cool. And Mr. Towmaster 99, how you doing, Tow?
Doing well. Welcome to the Midwest, where we've hit, I think, every season this past seasonal change this past like 3 days. So with another snowstorm coming in supposedly overnight.
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast. We had a blizzard during the day, like late morning, like about 11:30 or so, unpredicted. It had only been predicted to rain. It just blew into snow, and then by 4 p.m., sun was up and it had all melted.
Oh well,
Nice.
It's like you're living in the Rocky Mountains, right? Like snow comes in the morning and melts in the afternoon. It's okay.
Yeah, in the state I live in, we often say if you don't like the state's weather, just wait 5 minutes. It is sure to change. So without much further ado, we have a lot to get through tonight. So without much further ado, let's get to it. And I may be a little judge oriented tonight and bang the gavel on some of these parts just so we can make sure we get through to everything. So let's kick off segment 1, our main gamer experience stories for the week, starting with you, DBQ.
Sure. So I'm going to start with not a new game, but a game that's 6 months old. Actually, in the superlative show in December, I talked about Borderlands 4 being my biggest disappointment of the year. A little bit because of the stability and all of the Randy Pitchfordness of it all, but also it was just never a game that it's a franchise that I've always played with family and friends, and nobody else picked it up upon launch. And just this past week, a family member got into it, and so I've been spending a lot of time with Borderlands 4. Not a surprise that after 6 months, it's pretty stable, much more stable than it was in week 1. It's still, so I'm running a 3060, and it's an HP Omen, so an i7, 32 RAM. And shaders take significant amount of time still. That it's still just, caching shaders, loading shaders, compiling shaders. It takes a significant amount of time. Like it feels like it's running off an SSD hard drive, and it feels like a PlayStation 3 load time. In terms of, and the thing is, like, I went up and I played it on, I have it also for PS5 and loaded in the same area, and it's seconds until I load in versus, single digit seconds versus 40 seconds till I load in on PC. And so it's interesting. I mean, once it's loaded, it's smooth, it's fluid. I'm enjoying the gameplay differences from Borderlands 3. The map is a whole lot better. The movement is good. The grappling hook works nicely. It's Borderlands. You know what you're getting, but it's fun to play with friends, with family. It's a good kind of conversation game. And actually, the timing of it works out great because next week there's the first story DLCs. They had a raid pack that came out earlier I think in January or February. And this month now they have their first kind of standalone story DLC and a new character coming for that as well. So I don't know what the price is on that yet. But it's definitely, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, it's interesting to see the differences on two different machines. Granted, my computer's not as strong as a PlayStation 5, but it's drastically different in terms of performance, at least in terms of startup. Like once it's running, I'm not crashing. I don't have any stutters. I'm running, not running everything on ultra, but I'm running things on high. So Yeah, but again, if you've enjoyed, right, it's Borderlands, right? If it's something that you've enjoyed in the past, you're still going to enjoy it. The shooting is good. The gunplay variety is nice. The narrative is not beating you over the head nearly as much as Borderlands 3 did. So, and now it's a whole lot cheaper than it was 6 months ago. So, it was an easy thing to jump into, and if it's something that people have enjoyed in the past and have sat on because of all the stability issues. I remember Innate talking about it, that they were playing it back when it launched, and not necessarily having a whole lot of issues. So yeah, I found myself sucked back in, let's say that. So I may not necessarily be talking about it again on future podcasts frequently, but I'll probably still be playing it as long as I've got people to play with.
What resolution are you playing? Are you playing at 1440p?
No, I'm playing at 1080. So my monitor's still at a 10. So I'm not even kind of pushing that aspect of it.
Yeah, but you are more CPU bound than you would be at higher res, where it would be offloading more of the work to the GPU.
Yep, that's true. That makes sense.
I wonder if that's your difference. Because on the PlayStation, are you playing at 4K?
Yeah, on PlayStation, I'm playing in 4K. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then are you able to tweak down settings to get to something that's enjoyable and playable as a shooter?
Oh yeah, I mean once it's loaded, I'm not having any real issues at all. Like
okay, so
my frame rates
plays fine. It's just
it plays fine, right? And I'm in 1080. It's looking great, right? I'm not running it. It looks different on 4K, that's for sure, in terms of lighting. But in 1080, it looks, again, my settings I've turned shadows down a little bit, but for the most part, my things are on very high settings. And so, but I'm not, it's fluid, it's smooth. I'm not getting any type of noticeable significant frame drops that are impacting kind of gameplay performance. It really is in the loading of it, in the compiling shaders aspect. But I will say it's certainly faster than it was at launch in terms of compiling shaders, which was minutes worth versus close to a minute worth now.
Right. Are you able to turn ray tracing on?
I haven't even tried, mainly because I'm running on 1080p. I haven't even, I
think I'm not super. I don't specifically know because I didn't look, but I think that game has ray tracing enabled.
I think it does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I made sure my NVIDIA drivers were updated and everything else, but yeah.
Very cool. Tao, did you have any questions?
Did you have it? You already had it on both PC and PS5?
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know.
I've had it.
Really.
No, I picked them up. I picked them up relatively right around launch. I think I got both. I got the PC one at a discount for like $50, and then picked up the PlayStation one. So yeah, you and I have both been playing 2025 shooters. So
yeah, Tao. So what brings you back to Nuketown?
Well, I'm glad I wasn't the only one complaining about the shaders, because Call of Duty also takes a few minutes to do the shaders also when you go in there, and it always, you get that initial install install of the shaders, and then it has to restart the whole game for some reason. No other game does that I've seen so far, but
on that one, I don't. Yes, the first load is lengthy,
yeah.
But then after that, what bothers me the most is how frequently it has to do it. It's like every time the drivers update, it's like every 2 or 3 days, like it constantly has to recompile drivers before you can get into multiplayer, and that just drives me nuts. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, most other games will might do it like once a week, maybe like a full compile, download like that. Other ones it'll do like once a week, where it like takes a little bit, like takes a minute or so, and then maybe like once or twice during the week, but it's like usually pretty quicker. It's a lot quicker, but yeah. So I came back. I'll go on a couple tangents here. So first tangent is I came back because I upped my Game Pass, or I went back into Game Pass for just like a month, because I was gonna play Sea of Thieves with my son. He wanted to play it, and I thought I had bought Sea of Thieves, which I guess
Did you go,
really wouldn't have mattered.
did you go
Sorry, go
Game
ahead.
Pass Premium, or at what tier did you jump
I
back
did
in?
Ultimate. Yeah, I just did
Okay.
Ultimate. So I was
Okay.
like, I might as well just do Ultimate. So I could probably play stuff on my Xbox too in my living room. So I thought I had bought it originally, Sea of Thieves, but I hadn't. So I was just playing it through Game Pass evidently. But I think even at that point, even if I did have it, I probably still would have needed Game Pass because I think you still needed the Game Pass to do any online as long as it's not free to play. So I would have had to go back into Game Pass anyway. So I did that, and then never even got to play Sea of Thieves yet so far because the initial down. And here's my second tangent that I'm going to go through. I don't know why Xbox downloads are absolutely horrible, even on PC. Like they're so slow. And the weird thing is too, like they start out super quick, and then like halfway through, and even like right near the end before it starts to, it's about to finish up, it like just drags. And I don't. It's happens on my PC, happens on my Xbox. So it's like I don't know. It's just some weird Xbox thing, I guess. But I've always complained. Maybe not so much here. I might have mentioned it in the past, but. Yeah, just their Xbox, just their downloads are horrible. So finally got that downloaded, but like I said, I haven't played that yet. But to go back to Call of Duty, oh boy, let's just start with the game first. The game is fine. Like it really reminds me of Black Ops 3, and I don't know, Game Logic, you might not have been on Call of Duty at that point when Black Ops 3 came out. I believe that was the one that was totally multiplayer. There was no story to it. And I believe that one introduced
2015. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that one introduced Blackout, which is their first battle royal mode attempt, which I loved. I loved Blackout, the first one, the first battle royal that they did. It was I was always playing that one. But they did introduce a mode within Warzone now that kind of is supposed to be like that, but I don't know, man. There's just something. I think I forgot what it was called. I was going to look it up too because I don't remember. It's not called Blackout or anything, but it takes a lot of inspiration from it. There's just something off about that mode. Like I haven't gone back to Warzone either. I've only tried this new Blackout-esque battle royale mode that they have, and it's just the four squads. So you just 4-on-4 with 100 people, other people in there. 50 other squads, and you just drop in like normal. It's a different map. I think it's called Avalon. You just drop in like normal. The first thing is, and I don't know, once again, I don't know why. So you have a wingsuit when you first drop in instead of having a parachute. And I'm sure I could probably change the settings, but they have the W and S as the looking up and down for the movement, which is super weird. Like I don't know why they just didn't map it to the mouse. So I was trying to get used to that. That was the first thing. Like it kept throwing me off because any other battle royale, when you drop in, you're using the mouse to look around and to navigate and stuff. Other than the turning, obviously you turn with W and or A and D, excuse me. But that was the first thing. And then, like I said, I don't know. I can't put my finger in it yet. I'm still playing it because it's pretty good. It's okay. And the other thing is, and this is weird for me to say, that I played so much Call of Duty, and I always thought Call of Duty was fast. It seems really slow, like the movement. Like you're not running as fast. It seems like coming from Red Sec or Battlefield 6, excuse me, which is Red Sec is their battle royale mode, and even like Fortnite, which Fortnite's probably jacked up a little bit more with their settings and stuff with the running and all that. But I don't know, this just Call of Duty in general, even just doing the regular multiplayer playthroughs of the different modes, it just seems like really slow, like, which is weird because I always thought Black Ops was kind of the faster of the at least of the two, maybe even three different games that would come out for the Call of Duty series between Modern Warfare and some of the other ones from like was it Sledgehammer, I think, used to do some of the other ones. Yeah, that was the other thing. I was just, man, this is like, like I said, because I always thought Call of Duty was faster. Like I played Battlefield in the past, and obviously Fortnite, and even the kind of older Fortnite. Call of Duty always seemed faster, and it was just like it was just throwing me off. So, but just again, in getting back to the gameplay itself, I was kind of having an itch to play Call of Duty again, actually. So I guess it was kind of perfect timing that I jumped back into it. So gameplay itself is fine. It's Call of Duty. It's nothing too much different. They do have the wall running back in this one. You can kind of climb up on stuff a little bit more easier because you can do that kind of climb up a wall kind of a thing. So there's that one map, Firing Range, which is one of my favorites. There's like a tower. Basically, you can use it as a sniper tower. Like before, there's a ladder on one side, and the other side there's just a kind of a vertical drop to like a little ledge or something. Before, you had to use the ladder in the other games to get into that, to get up to there. Now, because you have the wall running, you have these extra abilities, you just jump up there and like crawl up the wall. You can get in from like both sides now, so it's kind of cool. It was like different things like that where it kind of switches up the gameplay a little bit. So you gotta watch your back a little bit more than you used to. They have a couple other maps that are similar from I'm assuming 3, maybe even 2 also. They have original maps too, but just they've kind of tweaked how stuff looks, but it's basically the same layout as some of those older maps. I think the yacht was one of them. It's kind of that big boat. And I think you mentioned that to Game Logic in the past. That one's pretty good. I kind of like that one. But yeah, just in general, it's been an okay experience. The other problem now is I've been having a lot of crashes with it. And even after I had installed it, like a couple days later, it just like wouldn't start. Like I kept getting an error. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And there was an update that just had happened. So I don't know if something got screwed up with that update. So I had to wait like another couple of days. Actually, no. I think it was the next day. I was finally, all right, what's going on here? So I was kind of screwing around with it. I verified the files within just like the Xbox app. That didn't work. And I was looking online, to clear out all these different other temp files and all this cache and other stuff. And that didn't work. And then I finally had to do a repair or a verify on Call of Duty on the software itself, but through Windows. And that seemed to work. I was like, what? Come on, guys. Like, really? So I was just kind of frustrated, I think, just with the whole ordeal. But I'm still kind of plugging away at it. I don't know if I'll probably play the new blackout mode a little bit more, maybe. But I don't know. It just seems, like I said, something's off. I'll probably just stick to the multiplayer. I was having fun with the multiplayer, just like I usually do. So I wasn't having any issues with the actual gameplay there. But yeah, other than that, I haven't touched any zombies or any of the campaign. I probably won't. Maybe zombies a little bit. I might try, but I haven't touched the campaign, and I probably will not. So we'll have to see how that goes within the next month here.
At this point, the campaign, you can just jump ahead to do whatever their end game persistent mode is.
Yeah,
I remember that when that came out there. Yeah.
And they have the co-op modes too, I think, in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think with 4 people this time, I think it was.
Yeah, because the campaign is designed to kind of gear you up for or prepare you for the end game, which was a co-op piece.
Yeah.
So do you think you're sticking with it? Picking it up after Game Pass runs out again after a month, or are you going to re-up Game Pass and be back?
Probably not. I mean, maybe in the future, like if I have to, it's probably how I'm going to be now going forward with Game Pass. Like just every once in a while, I might, get a month or so, or maybe even a couple of weeks if it's just like Call of Duty I want to play. Because like I said, I had an itch to play a Call of Duty, and I was like, And then just like I said, my son happened to want to play Sea of Thieves, so I was like, I might as well download Call of Duty 7. So since I have the Game Pass back, and then I might jump into some other stuff too now that I have Game Pass again. Because that was the one good thing about Game Pass was you can always play all these other different games that maybe I wouldn't have normally. So, which, a lot of people do. But yeah, we'll see.
Very cool. DBQ, do you want to talk about the indie game that you've been playing?
Yeah. So after 2 big shooters, let's go in a total opposite direction. So this is a game that came out at the beginning of March. It is Esoteric Ebb. It is on PC. Esoteric Ebb is a game developed by Christopher Borgard. It's about, looking through the credits, it's about a 25 people involved in the creation of it. It is very Dungeons and Dragons meets Disco Elysium. Where it is you're a cleric, or you're a cleric, and are trying to, there's been an explosion and you're trying to solve what caused this explosion. You have 5 days before the first election in the kingdom, and like Disco Elysium has a number of kind of characters and voices as you're going through some of the dialogue pieces. This uses the kind of D&D traditional role-playing traits as those voices, right? So you have dexterity, you have strength, you have charisma, you have wisdom, intelligence. And so it's kind of isometric. It's the animation is beautiful. It's very kind of hand-drawn. So it's not like a heavy cell shaded. It's a very light kind of animated look to it. And you're navigating around, kind of clicking on things to moving around. Your combat is a dice roll in combat, but you also, even in combat, you have the ability, depending on your stats, to talk them down or to take alternative options from combat. You're, as you're going through and talking to people and kind of, there's so much lore. It's enjoyable. Here's my street cred, or my lack of street cred in role playing aspects. Never played Dungeons and Dragons. And not a judgment way. Like, this is not. I'm not hanging my hat on this as something like, oh, this really feels like it. But I'm really enjoying the deep branching narrative that is happening, and that part is really great. Like, in your quest, you've got almost like a constellation of quests that, as one can trigger 3 other ones depending on what you find and discover, or who, and you've got skill checks as even within the voices of your traits, right? Charisma or strength, that you have the ability to ask certain types of questions, and similar in as you would like in a Fallout or a Mass Effect, like depending on your stats, you may or may not succeed, or you have there's a numbered chance in terms of succeeding in that, which can happen. Or if you have a dice roll that takes you, that fails it, it will block off other options or force you down a certain path. And I played it. I've been playing it for the last week. I picked it up kind of early in the week, and this weekend, one of my sons was over, who often is plays D&D and has been a DM at different times, and I tossed him in front of it, and he just kind of nodded along like, oh, like, and he was enjoying it, and the narrative aspects of it, and kind of the lore world building, even in the dialogue aspects, you've got the ability to kind of, hyperlink out to get more information about different pieces of the lore and characters. So it's a relatively small game. And it's one where I saw an open. The reason it popped up to me is looking at OpenCritic. It's right now at about an 89, kind of one of the higher ones for the year so far. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll give this a shot. And it's $25 on PC. I think I picked it up on like a launched week sale for 22, something like that. So I'm enjoying it. It's scratching, similar to like I was really into Dispatch at the end of the year because of the narrative aspects. Like, this is working on that same type of level. It doesn't hurt that I've been kind of marathoning through the Dungeon Crawler Carl series on Audible and in print. And so it throws me into, some of those same type of narrative hooks. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. If people if they enjoy Disco Elysium but like something a little more medieval or D&D focused, this falls within there a little bit.
Very cool. Tao, any questions or comments?
Is this only on PC or is it on other systems? I'm sorry, I don't know if you mentioned that.
I think right now it's only on PC. It runs pretty well. I mean, it runs well on Steam Deck, and it works pretty well with controller in terms of things. So I could see it being ported at some point in time, but I think right now I've only seen it on PC.
There. Nice.
All right. Well, what's that?
No, I was going to say, let's go to the next that's ahead in. So
yeah, let's go on to segment 2 and start talking news in DBQ Europe first.
Yeah, so on the night of the Oscars, let's talk about the winner of the Game Developer Choice Awards. I think that's the name of them, the the awards from GDC. So the Game Developer Choice Awards. This is a quick wrap up from GameDeveloper.com. It's other sites. The first one I caught was actually on GameSpot, where they listed all the nominees in the categories as well. But since we've covered the nominees before on a previous episode, I figured we'd just quickly hit on some of these. So there's 10 categories, 10 awards that they give out, and Claire Obscura Expedition 33 got 5 of the 10. Best technology was Death Stranding 2. Innovation was Blueprints. Social impact was Consume Me, about eating disorders. Audience award was Anne Roger, which is a small little game. And game of the year, Claire Obscura. Best audio, Claire Obscura. Best visual art, Claire Obscura. Best debut, Claire Obscura. So lots of awards there for Claire Obscura. And then this week as well, we also got the nominees for the BAFTAs, but we'll cover those, I'm sure, once we get some awards.
Tao,
So-
I'm sorry, go ahead. You.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we always cover the game awards, and we try to cover these other ones. And at this point, there's not a whole lot of surprises. We're seeing a lot of the same trends, so I don't know that there's a whole lot of new analysis here. Just reinforces what we've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, I would say my one comment. We're going to get into a lot of the stuff. I have to say, I feel like I'm saying this every week now. I'm kind of disappointed at the games media press, as well as kind of the contingent of influencers who were out at GDC, just like nobody talked about the awards. Like it was, it's all about Project Helix, which we're going to talk about tonight, which I'll give my commentary on how a few PowerPoint slides in a brief consumed the entirety of the discussion cycle this week, and how that compares right in a ratio in terms of impact and importance. But we'll talk about that when we get to Project Helix. Tao, any comments on GDC awards?
No, I mean, pretty much like DB said. I mean, it's kind of the usual suspects here. I had to look up what Anne Roger was because I never even heard of that. So, but yeah, other than that, yeah, no surprises.
I think this is the award I did not spend a couple years. I've thoroughly gone through the jury procedures for each of the award show, because you get a lot of discussions with gamers who don't understand. First of all, the first year after the pandemic that I kind of got pulled into this circle, it was clear nobody really understood that there was any award show other than Jeff Keighley's show. Then once we started kind of pushing that information out, it then became apparent that people didn't understand that the jury procedures are different for each show. And I want to say this is the one where I think it's voted on by industry professionals, but it's more stringent. I think it's this one, and maybe it's DICE. I think it's this one though, where you for you to vote on the audio category, you have to identify as an audio engineer, or you have to be in that domain set of expertise that qualifies you to vote for that award. I think this is that one, but I'm not absolutely certain.
I'm not sure either. I mean, that would make sense given the audience and the jury pool. Yeah. So, and yes, the Anne Roger one is an audience. That's the only one that is a wide open vote.
Yep. Hey, you see in the chat there, Hero Down Under, thanks so much for coming through. I know you're at work today because you're one day ahead, but we appreciate you. Next news story in the rundown is over at IGN by Tom Phillips. Fortnite responds to fan uproar over V-Bucks changes as players say they'll skip the next battle pass and cancel subscriptions. Fortnite fans are in an uproar over Epic Games' change to the pricing and availability of V-Bucks, and now the game's developer has finally acknowledged the wave of negative feedback. This week, Epic Games announced its biggest ever shakeup to how Fortnite's lucrative in-game currency is doled out and how much it will cost to buy. In short, you'll now get fewer V-Bucks for your money, fewer V-Bucks in each battle pass, and fewer V-Bucks as part of the game's Fortnite crew monthly. The response to these changes has been extremely negative, with complaints on Reddit and social media criticizing the financial necessity of the changes as well as their timing. So a few quick, snappy bullet points. First of all, the optics on this are exacerbating things a little because Epic just settled with Google to pry open their mobile app store. And of course, the entirety of that crusade, it's been, we're the good guys, we're fighting for a developer. Like, that's what it's been the whole time. And then as soon as you win that landmark case, right, as soon as you settle out court, you flip around and pull this trigger. So not a good look, number one. Number two, another thing exacerbating it is that Fortnite has been the game that you can, if you're deep into Fortnite and you do it right, you could have onboarded into Fortnite, paid for one battle pass, and then if you complete the battle pass, you earn enough V-Bucks back to just buy the next battle pass. So that's kind of part of the world's economy in Fortnite. The third thing is, this is my capitalist view, because I think I'm on this square right now, that if we're going to assert that there are things that are anti-consumer, then I believe that some of the pushback to those things can be qualified as anti-capitalism, because some of the things are sometimes just pushback against, greedy corporations. Yes, inherently corporations are by definition greedy in a capitalist economy. Like that's the way it functions. So, while I admit this is not a good look, there's also a part of me that says, did we expect V-Bucks to be the same price forever? Because I don't know that that's logical. And even Xbox way back in the day, when you used to go back and buy Xbox points before they flipped it to where you just paid the $1, right? They changed the exchange rate for Xbox points or whatever to the $1 at one point. So, it happens when these things have been in run for a while. I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm just saying let's also keep in mind that this is not unprecedented, that it has happened before. I don't know if it's as egregious as this, because I'm not that Fortnite person, so I haven't looked at the economy of this. So I don't know. Those are my 3 cents. DBQ?
I'm curious on what Tao has to say, since he's played probably the most Fortnite of the three of us. But I mean, I'm not surprised, right? Like, if the market is such, and I think it also ties in with some of the things we'll talk about in the rest of the news stories as well, in terms of if the monetization rate is not as high, that they're looking for where they make up from some of that. And it's not, this is certainly a place. It'll be interesting to see how yes, the community has responded within the first week as an initial kind of knee-jerk reaction, often, for good or disappointingly, depending on how you perceive it. The pushback and the initial kind of game press headlines are there for game press headlines, and whether that actually impacts people's purchase choices. Like, if this is actually an issue, then I hope people vote with their dollar and make us, and they're not making that same amount of revenue that they had planned because of the increase.
So, Cal, before I go, I'm going to throw a fourth bullet point on my list of 3, because something DBQ made me think about this. Let's also remember that this is also the economy where the majority of the player base doesn't pay into the system. That this is a game that survives on the whales. So I absolutely guarantee you, that a large volume of the complaining is from people who do what I said. Maybe they bought a battle pass years ago at $10, but then they haven't paid into it at all. They just play and earn V-Bucks, right? And what they're mad about, they're not mad about you have to pay more money to get V-Bucks, because they're not paying any money. They're mad that they're not earning as many V-Bucks in game and surviving on the economy without paying in at all. All right, Tal, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, this is a free to play game, so I mean, ultimately, you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to buy any of this stuff at all, like the battle pass or anything. Like, they actually do give a good decent amount of free stuff even outside the battle pass. Like throughout the year, I won't say like in general, but throughout the year, there's stuff that they give out. The other thing too that they announced this week was they're putting Save the World free to play, which in the past, now I don't know how it's going to go going forward. You actually were able to accrue V-Bucks through that, and I never hit that part in the game. I don't think, or I just never knew how to do it because I did play a little bit of it. And actually, it was pretty fun.
When you
The
used to have to pay
mode.
you used to have to pay $20 to get that. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a $20 separate purchase. Well, no, I shouldn't say separate purchase, but a purchase. And also, if you bought certain skins within Fortnite, which is how I got it, actually, I think it came out a little bit cheaper. So you got the skin, you buy a skin with whatever. It was a actual skin from Save the World that wasn't in the regular battle royal. You get back blings and all this other stuff, but you actually got you got Save the World for free. Well, within that package too, so it came out a little bit cheaper than just Save the World by itself. So like I said, I don't know if that's still going to be a thing once it goes free to play. Like you can acquire, get V-Bucks from that mode. Also, I think you really had to grind to do that. But I mean, you didn't get free V-Bucks from it. So it'll be interesting to see how that part of it too kind of factors into it. Like they've limited that also, and just going back to just in general, like the battle pass and the crew. That like you said, it hasn't changed, hasn't gone up or gone down in price, but they did go down in price on just regular shop items, like the shop where you can get all the skins and stuff. They did drop the prices on a lot of that stuff at one point. I can't remember. There was something going on. Maybe the players dipped or something. I forgot what happened, why they even did. But that was a thing. So I think it's pretty much been down this whole time. It might have gone back up a little bit, maybe, but I don't think it was back up to what it was. But like I said, Battle Pass and Crew has always, been $10. I think actually like $9.50 or something. It was the actual price. It was a little bit of a discount. So not entirely shocked that that they're doing that. And actually, even the Crew is. I mean, you get just within Fortnite alone, you get the regular Battle Royale, you get the OG Battle Royale, you get Lego now, and the music, the festival battle pass, all within that. Plus, you do get the Rocket Pass, which is the Rocket League, their battle pass too. So you get all of those for, I think it's like $15-$16 a month, which I do have. So I mean, that was always thought was a good deal too. But once again, obviously they're limiting that stuff. But I don't know. Like once again, you can still play the game. All this other payment stuff is just kind of side thing. But I can understand where I guess for people getting upset about it. And I know there's a big thing I guess this week. I think when the season changes, there's on that day supposedly there's supposed to be a big boycott of the game. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But I know there was a big thing too when the sidekicks came out, which is just like a little character that you can bring along with you when you're playing the battle royale mode. And not only you and your teams can see it, it doesn't really give you an advantage on anything. But there's a big hubbub about that, and then eventually people are buying that like left and right too. So as those came out, and especially like the IP ones, like they had Towley for when South Park came out, and other IPs have come out where they've given you the little sidekick from that IP. So we'll see how everything goes forward.
Yeah, I hope people don't misjudge their tactics, because quite honestly, like I don't really know that not buying the battle pass really, like if you're just recycling V-Bucks, I don't really know that not buying the battle pass really does anything to Epic. Canceling a subscription if you're on that Fortnite subscription, yeah, that'll hit it. But like it'll be interesting to see when this goes down. I feel like it's analogous to like the Ubisoft news we've been tracking, where the guys like all up in arms and like, oh, we're gonna burn it down, we're shutting it down, and I'm like 10 people show up for the strike. I'm like, maybe that doesn't have the impact you think it's going to have. So I'm curious to see if there's this supposed boycott that goes on, but the player numbers stay up. I'm like that. I think Epic will be much more concerned about. Like if the player numbers don't dip, I don't know that they'll care about some of this other stuff. Going on to the next news story. Over on Kit Guru by Matthew Wilson. A lot of news this week about how PC gamers consume, and really in contrast to console gamers. This story here, legacy IPs continue to dominate PC gaming new top 20 data shows. We are currently living in an age where every publisher is trying to crack the live service model with one big, long-running game generating consistent recurring income that vastly outweighs the kind of money made by a typical single-player game. However, as we have seen more recently, these types of games are becoming increasingly risky to release. They've been risky for a very long time. With games like Babylon's Fall, Rumbleverse, Suicide Squad, Concord, and Highguard all shutting down within a year of release. We should also talk about how hero shooters are different than other things going on in the market. As the news data shows, the top 20 most played PC games is heavily concentrated on legacy franchises. Unfortunately, their resource website is currently down. But Insider Gaming, that's not a good source. So, but at least they managed to grab the list. Blows the full top 20 along with the percentage of overall play time each game has earned. So one of these things, and we're going to talk about the Newzoo data. I think we've been on this show and we've talked about how player engagement time we have seen over the last couple of years, and we are seeing a disparity between that and spend, and that's not always concurrent. So it's not always a given that where people spend their most time is where the most money is being spent. Some of the Newzoo data talks about how there's been a dip in some of the live service engagement. But Ben Porter, who's the Newzoo analyst who reported on these metrics, said, it's too early to say that there's a structural decline going on in live service games. But for instance, one of my big things that I always point out is, 9.7% of the time spent in Roblox, which is number one. I don't know that tracks that the most money is being spent on Roblox. Because there's a lot of stuff there that people can gain access to and not spend money. Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Minecraft, of course, one other thing to point out is, as I always say, lots of hand-waving goes on that, Roblox and Minecraft are the way of the future, and that's what people are going to play. But notice that these are the only two UGC games, really, that are ever in the conversation. And I think that's because if we looked at it more deeply, you would see that anybody else trying to make a UGC game doesn't make it, indicating to me that there's space for like two of these in the market. Fortnite, Dota 2, Valorant, World of Warcraft. Surprisingly, Escape from Tarkov is up here, while other extraction shooters are not. So Arc Raiders, despite
which is interesting that Tarkov is there. Sorry to jump in, because Tarkov, looking at the Newzoo data, Tarkov isn't in the top 20 titles when they give the list of the top 20 franchises. So yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no. So again, I think as I always say, all data is interesting. Not all data is impactful. And that's a thing, and that's why we look at all that, because if you don't look at all of the data, then you can't tell. And so I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people asserting that, well, these pieces of data don't matter. Like UK sales don't matter, Japan sales don't matter. And I'm like, okay, but you're never aware of the things and the trends if you just blow the data off and don't look at it. So, some other titles in here: Diablo IV, Apex Legends. So the point of this is really that the difference in PC player engagement time and in spend is that it tends to be on older games. It tends not to be on new titles, and I think that's a reason. There's lots of reasons for that. I don't know that we'll get into them tonight. The other thing that we wanted to talk about, though, and really that story was just a lead in to the more interesting piece, which was the second part of this week's most recent episode of the Game Business Show. In the second piece, like I said, Ben Porter was on, who is the lead consultant at Newzoo for tracking some of the video game industry data. So DBQ, do you want to go ahead and talk about this one?
Yeah, so this drops down and gives a number of other kind of detail and bullet points within the full Newzoo report, which is about, I'm trying to remember here, what, 60 slides somewhere in there. So yeah, I think the first one here, that PC and console revenue grew 7% year over year, but playtime was just slightly down by about 1%. Looking at the Newzoo data in general, last year, as you were talking about with like the top 25 from the
So
previous
DBQ,
article. Yeah.
DBQ, sorry if I get it. But I just want to highlight point, right? It's right there with what I was talking about. So here we have playtime dipping, so engagement time down, but
Yes,
spend
but
up.
revenue is not. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I think that is a key one there. And just like the third bullet point here, where Fortnite's decline looks worse than it is. So Fortnite did see a decline in its engagement time by a percentage. It dropped, combined shares in terms of Battle Royale. Playtime in Battle Royale for Fortnite dropped from 24 to 25 by about 29% in terms of overall. But again, not necessarily significant in terms of, as it says here, right? The bump was actually more of a bump. The difference is more of a bump that happened in 24 rather than you have what the line at 25 is more back to the previous baseline as well. The Newzoo revenue projects out to 2028. In addition to giving the data for 2025, they're projecting that PC will surpass console. You've got moving down further that.
So DBQ, can I?
Yeah,
sorry,
go
can I
jump
jump in on that one point? So
anytime.
a lot of,
because there's lots here, right? And there's a whole lot more in the actual report, which
Yes.
I think we can talk about as well.
And so on this note, like lots of volume today about all the growth is on PC. I sometimes think that the commentary is often by people who just haven't been around that long. Because when we look back over the last 25 years, let's go back to the beginning of the century, right? From 2005, right, with the introduction of that console generation, to about 2015-ish, at least. Actually, I would say 2017, until Fortnite took off, which really kind of brought back a return to big revenue on PC. Let's remember that during this entire time, we talked about the death of the PC because shrink-wrapped, cardboard boxed PC games came off the shelf in GameSpot. Because when the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 got introduced, there was a huge swing over to console. A lot more of the money had been made on PC, was being made in PC, or at least they were, actually a lot more money was being made on PC at that point. So again, just like I talked about RAM, what typifies RAM is really these super cycles where you get things that are really, really, really great and then things that are really, really, really bad. These things have a long cycle time. So we're now coming back to a point where PC is pointed towards exceeding console revenue, and that's been the first time in a decade. So what is likely to happen is that this will probably be the state of affairs for about 10-ish years, and then it will probably swing back towards console, is what I would expect. Rather than consoles are over, all the growth is going to be on PC. So I'm sorry, go ahead, DBQ.
No, I think that's a significant piece here. And one of the things, that Newzoo shows is they've got a chart where they go back to 2015 in terms of PC and console revenue. And, you're looking at in 2015, PC revenue was above console. That then from 2016 to 2017, they're about even. 2018, we get a bump that pushes console over PC, and it has been that way. And then in 2025, it begins to 2024. It narrows a little bit, and 25 it narrows even more. So, and again, the piece of this here is also this is revenue based. right? This is not always player based or sales based. One of the things that the Newzoo does, which I have come to appreciate in it, is that it is often talking about revenue, and it's often talking about it at a global market because of what they're looking at. So it's pulling in it is not just you're getting the Chinese market in there as well, which makes a significant population on PC, and that's pulled out in here as well. But again, if you're looking at console revenue, the United States is a huge generator in console revenue, and the United States is a second to China in PC revenue. And I think that impacts some of these numbers and the perception of how the narrative is in this space as well. And this also talks about in terms of microtransactions. Microtransactions are the 48% of PC revenue, where on console they're only 27%, where premium products are 50% on console and only 29% on PC. This also, the article that you've got up here talks about the $30 to $50 price range is a rapidly growing space that that market, especially in the PC area, is significantly growing. On PlayStation, not surprisingly, the premium product, the premium game is the highest revenue generator. And so there's lots of interesting pieces here in terms of not only game price, but also annual differences between annualized franchises. So the premium free to play piece for PlayStation, it is the dominant space. That is not the case in PC. It's still a significant revenue, but obviously the free to play is a much greater revenue there. I think one of the other pieces that was interesting, you saw a slight dip, only a 1% dip in overall playtime on the Xbox. One of the other pieces that last year, the Newzoo, I think last year is when Newzoo really came up to me in terms of like it popped out of the news cycle because of the data showing that 50% of titles played were less than 6 years old, or over 6 years, right? Like they were the older ones. And this year that's gone down from over 50% down to like 49%. Still a significant portion of the top 20 games and the older games that have been played and how they perform in the market. I think one of the other pieces here, the 79 games accounted for 80% of all playtime on PC, 91 games, the 74 on PlayStation and 91. I think one of the things the data shows is kind of the impact of Game Pass on the Xbox platform as well, in terms of it's not drastically more diverse in terms of where people are playing, but it's a higher percentage outside of that top 20 where people are playing on the Xbox platform, in part just like as Tao jumped back into Game Pass tonight.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll mention is if you watch or listen to the podcast, the Game Business Show, which I highly recommend. I think it's one of the best podcasts going right now in terms of getting insight into the industry, the business side. One of the things Ben Porter and Christopher Dring, Ben Porter mentions and Christopher Dring concurs with, is that a huge part of the problem with the data that comes out of the industry and people talking about, therefore, what companies should do, is that a lot of the trends are contradictory. And so what too often happens is people capitalize on a thing, typically that correlates with, whatever their preferred platform is, or whatever narrative, they're whatever, kind of I'll say it again, anti-capitalist, like, socialist economy, Marxist trend, that they would like to see in terms of things tilting more towards the buyer than the supplier, is they capitalize on one of these things and they say, see, this is proof that there's one truism. But again, what these guys say, and if you look at this data, what they say is like, no, that's the problem is that while I might say 80% of blah 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 game do this, that doesn't mean that like there are no successes, right? Or like I always say, people constantly talk about like there's no growth, so people should do something else. And I'm like, so are we saying we're just going to give up on a $92 billion industry because there's no growth or small growth? So a couple of things on here that again just particularly stand out right within in terms of those things being contradictory are this comment about where was the comment about like the $30 games?
Yeah, the $30 to $50 price range.
I thought there was another thing that was specifically about like.
I'm looking at the Newzoo data itself right now, and as you look for that, I'll just share that on PC that 39% were in that $50 plus range, where on PlayStation you're at 79% and 76% on Xbox, and so you see a lot more diversification in terms of those price ranges, right? I was just talking about Esoteric Ebb, which is $25, and that is it's a more equally dispersed marketplace on PC, where you've got 25% in the $30 to $50 range and 32% in the under $30. But really, that piece of data from the bullet point here, last year was in 2024, that $30 to $50 price range was at 12%. This year it's at 14%. It's the past 2 years it's been above. It's been in double digits where it wasn't the previous year. And Xbox, it's gone up from 9% to 14%. So again, finding space and traction within that kind of mid-priced range. So even if we're, as I have at least, mentally thought like, it's either an all or nothing in terms of fewer and fewer big AAA publishers and less kind of mid-tier, this data definitely shows, right, going back to the contradiction that Game Logic was saying, that mid-tier games, at least in the pricing of games, is something that is growing and is finding increased revenue there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what one of the things that Ben Porter pointed out. Yeah, he's like, just because games are surging right in this $30 to $50 price band doesn't mean that like $70 games aren't still being successful. And so one of these things, that was pointed out is 26 games priced below $30 generating more than $5 million in revenue last year, up from 17 to 2024. And you will get a lot of people saying, games should be like $30. You will be successful if you make your game $30. And I'm like, time out. PC is still mostly about microtransactions from premium games, where their main PC growth driver up 11.8% year over year. So now they're contradicting that, because premium games are not $30 games, right? They're your higher price games. So, and then back to that top 20, that 2/3 of console revenues come from the top 20 games, whereas on PC, half of the revenue came from games outside of the top 20. And so I think that was that top 20 list that we were originally looking at.
Yeah, and I think, on the PC end, as somebody who appreciates and enjoys indie games, like that's a good sign, even with the discoverability. And even though like the Steam numbers, it's still, for all the games that are released on Steam, it's still a small, tiny fraction of games that made over, $100,000. I remember that data Steam put out there, and it's, but yes, in terms of the market space, that the dominant titles, especially on consoles, are still dominating.
Yeah. So, Tao, any comments?
No, I think you guys pretty much.
Yeah, sorry.
Pretty detailed. No, that's fine. I guess
there's so much here, right? It's 80 pages worth of data to comb through. So yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I guess my only question is, like, do they say specifically like where they get the data from? Is it just straight from the companies, or like how are they getting it?
So they're as far as I understand, they're like Circana. So they have a list of people who provide data, and that's both I think on the retail side and on like the publisher side. So then they aggregate all that data. So there's probably blocks of things that they don't get because people don't participate. But I think the key thing to note here is on this, like this is not survey data, right? This is actual concrete retail sales commercials data from the industry.
Yeah, stats from that. Okay.
Okay, let's hit a very quick one over on Igor's lab. Microsoft is updating DirectX for the ML era. Shader centering is set to disappear, and DXR 2.0 is already on the horizon. Microsoft isn't using GD 2026 for superficial presentation gimmicks. It's a matter of opinion, but rather for a strategic announcement with far-reaching implications. DirectX is being gradually re-architected for machine learning. Shader distribution on Windows is finally set to alleviate the never-ending compilation headaches on PCs, and DXR 2.0 is already paving the way for the next stage of ray tracing. In other words, Redmond is currently attempting to tackle three long-standing issues at once: performance, latency, and future proofing. I put this in here because one, I think we just talked about DirectX last week. Two, on another podcast I was on, somebody made some comments about DirectX 13. Everything that I've seen, I haven't seen anything referencing DirectX 13. Everything that I've seen is about them pushing technology forward by including things into DirectX 12. So I don't know. This talks about D3, D12, so that's a DirectX 12 part of the DirectX 12 package. So I haven't seen any, again, D3, D12 ray tracing tier 2. So I just wanted to put this in here to bring highlights to the fact that, like, concurrent with Project Helix, I suspect, and on the path there should be an invigorated amount of effort going into packing new technologies, updated technologies, upgraded technologies into DirectX, which should make gaming better across the board. Frequently what Microsoft does is they will take technologies from AMD and NVIDIA once AMD and NVIDIA have used them to their commercial advantage theoretically after time, and then pack them directly into DirectX. They'll take things from the Xbox console and pack them into DirectX and make them available across the board for PC. We saw that happen with Direct Storage. How impactful those things are, that can sometimes be a question, but I just put this in the news rundown to highlight the fact that that stuff is going on. Let's go on and talk about the big topic that everybody has been talking about this week. DBQ, you want to do the rundown on this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I say that in kind of exasperated way. Like, yes, technically they announced the Project Helix. This is the news story up on the screen here. If you're watching the video feed, it is from IGN. So, yes, they came out to announce Project Helix, that it is going to be.
Announcing the.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead. Oh, and it was autoplay. Okay.
Yeah, the audio was on. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it is coming out of the GDC. It was a 30-minute keynote around Project Helix in terms of looking to get things out to developers in 2027.
Maybe.
I would just say, like, it makes sense why they would say that this is coming, as we said before, right? Like, they're talking about integrating the next version of AMD FSR, that doing the latest ML-based upscaling techniques, super resolution techniques, multi-frame generation, both for ray tracing and path tracing. I think here we go. It also gives, a little bit in terms of the types of hardware, but again, not anything locked in, which makes a whole lot of sense at this point if it's not even going to come to developers until 2027. Next generation of DirectX, next generation of ray tracing, CPU directed to work graph execution, AMD FRX Next, and deep texture compression. This sets some kind of goalposts, it feels like, in terms of what they're planning around. But to me, it also feels not. It still feels pretty far out in terms of what developers will have to work with, and at the same time, they're talking. They've been talking about that the Project Helix will play both PC and Xbox games, and the question I think for consumers is, how different are those at this point?
So I appreciate the very diplomatic way that you articulated that. I'm going to be a little more brusque.
That's perfect. I'm reporting the news. You get to talk about it. How about that?
I got a little pushback in a conversation this week that, hey, well, this was a thing for developers. And I'm like, I'm looking at this from a developer perspective, and this tells me absolutely nothing. First of all, it was a 30-minute presentation.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to, I know that I don't know enough, but looking at this and reading all that I read about it, I feel like it doesn't give me anything more than talking points in a boardroom. From a developer standpoint, it doesn't feel like there's enough here to get me excited about something, because I don't know what I'm going to be working with.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's like it's just a bunch of corporate tech jargon, basically, they're throwing at you. It's like the old commercials where they used to tell you, "Oh, here's blast processing and stuff like that." It's like nobody knows what that is. Okay, and these are a bunch of developers they're talking to, so it's like, come on, man, really? But I mean, it's I guess something little tidbits they're giving us here and there, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't even think they're doing that. And the reason I say that is we'll go down the list. Co-design for next generation DirectX. A, so what? B, no crap. Literally all the video games that are for you, Microsoft, meaning PC games or Xbox, they operate on top of the abstraction layer DirectX. So I would hope that the silicon you're planning on putting in this box is compatible and had DirectX in mind when you engineered it. So that's a nothing statement. Next gen ray tracing performance and capabilities. Go ahead. You're telling me you're going to do ray tracing more. Okay, that's a nothing statement. GPU directed work graph execution. I mean, that's a statement. It just says that the GPU is going to be orchestrating a lot, but what the buy is for that, I don't know. AMD FSR next, built for next generation of neural rendering. Okay, again, so you're telling me you're going to do neural rendering more. Next generation ML upscaling. We do ML upscaling now. You're going to do ML upscaling more. Multi-frame generation, more. Although, admittedly, so FSR does do multi-frame MFG now. I don't know if they do it on consoles. They do it on PC. It is, in my opinion, it is nothing compared to what NVIDIA does. So great that they're going to be working on it. Awesome. But I don't know what the buy is for that. When these technologies, when upscaling technologies were implemented, when multi-frame the problem is always that they increase performance, they increase frames, but the image quality is bad. So how good is the image quality going to be? Next gen ray regeneration for ray tracing and path tracing. Again, things that are done today, you're telling me you're going to do them more. Neural texture compression, like you said, Tal. What does that mean? Direct storage was ZSTD. We do direct storage now, so you're going to do direct storage more. So all of these things are hey, this bundle of technologies, 90% of which exist today, we're going to do them more, but we're not going to tell you how you're able to address. We're telling you nothing about we're going to put these things in the SDK for you. We are putting in these additional calls so that you can just call these functions by magic through the API and they will just work. We don't do anything to tell you how much performance we don't tell you, hey, we took The Witcher 3 and we prototyped it on top of Project Helix Silicon with these new APIs, and we saw a 30% increase in performance. So there's nothing tangible or objective here. And just like you said, Tao, this is a marketing slide for nothing. If this were the reason I came out to GDC, I would be aggravated. And I'll say one thing on this show, because this is normally not the stuff I talk about on this show, but I will mention it. I heard nothing about developers who sat in this and what their impressions were, but Xbox had an army of influencers and YouTubers out attending this brief. And that's where the vast majority of information came from about what was put out in this room. Not developers. Not hardcore tech site writers, right? Not Ars Technica, not Kit Guru, not Tom's Hardware, not Gamers Nexus, not Hardware Unboxed, right? Like none of these hardcore tech sites. Digital Foundry wasn't out at GDC. And I think the really hardcore tech sites weren't out there because they could sniff and smell and tell that there wasn't any real information that was going to be put out. So it wasn't going to be worth their time, is what I'm assuming. I think the last thing I'll say, and then I'll give you guys some time to talk about just kind of Project Helix in general, if there's anything else you want to talk about. The last thing I will say is there's been a lot of discussion since a year ago, and we've mentioned some things on the show, that what's coming is a thing that is a PC that has what I'll call a console subsystem that plays console games primarily targeted at backwards compatibility. I mentioned to a friend last week, and then I was very interested to hear in this weekend's episode of Rebel FM that those guys mentioned the same thing. And I don't know. I know it's Arthur Geese. I can't remember the other two.
Is it still Anthony Gallegos?
It's Anthony Gallegos, Arthur Geese. I can't remember who the third guy is, because it was the third guy that I thought mentioned this.
Okay.
But at any rate, I mentioned this to a friend of mine last week, and it's interesting to hear that this person had the same thoughts. Again, the guys on Rebel FM have been around the gaming industry for 20, 30 years, covering it. And what I mentioned was there's a very good chance that we have all gotten it wrong. And I mean the people who have been pro what this thing is and the people who have been negative on it. We have all been coming at it from the direction of it is a PC with it is big PC, little console, right? To put it in those terms. There's a very good chance that it's the opposite. And what I said last week, it's 50-50, right? There's a very good chance that it's not a PC that plays console games, but it's a console that plays PC games. And on Rebel FM, they articulated that. If for anybody who follows me on Twitter, I recorded that snip from their show and put it out there. And that radically changes the game in terms of the product categorization of this, what it's competing against, how it compares from a price perspective. Like I said, I won't go into it here. I quite honestly, I think from a market perspective, that actually makes it worse than I was already predicting it was going to be. Because in what generation has the higher priced, more expensive console ever been the one that's been successful? The answer is none. So but it's an interesting thing to think about, and I would recommend people start thinking about this, that this is a console that will sandbox Windows 11 to enable running of games from Steam and Epic and potentially other storefronts. I would say in the same concept. I'm not saying this is the exact same technology, but I would say in the same concept as a container, because in the container is the operating system, right? And then everything runs inside of it, and it's sandboxed and kept inside that container. And so think about things that way, that maybe that's the way that an Xbox, a traditional Xbox as a console, could logically separate out and sandbox and isolate a Windows 11 instance running PC compatible games. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tao, DBQ.
I mean, like you said, there's like nothing here though, so there's nothing much to talk about. I mean, a lot of these things, yeah, I'm a PC guy, and I was like, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Like, okay, that's fine, like that's cool. Like the neural texture compression and all this other stuff is like, okay, but for me, I mean, I'm just gonna, like everything else, I'll wait and see. I don't even know if this will be out. Probably won't be out even next year. Like at the end of the year, it'll probably be 2028, more than likely, I would think. After the devs are just going to get it. Like they say 2027, the devs are going to get it, but like when in 2027? It's like we don't know. Beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So I think we just got a long time, to wait for this. And Honestly, I think it was probably too early that they even mentioned this. I get why she probably did it because obviously she's the new CEO coming in, or president coming into Xbox, and she wants to make a big splash. But and they have kind of mentioned this in the past, even before when Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond were still there, that they were working on something. But I don't know. Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see to see what happens. I don't know, DB. What do you think?
Oh, I have nothing to add to it because to me there's nothing here, right? This is a PR speak to change the narrative around the leadership transition.
Thank you so much for saying it, DBQ. I have also said that silently, that this is a distraction round. This is everybody's talking about Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond, because there's literally no reason to announce this right now. You're not putting out alpha kits till next year. This could have been a summer game fest or even a TGA announcement. TGA to be the more like applicable, like making this announcement at TGA and saying we're shipping alpha kits, we're shipping alpha hardware in the spring of next year makes more sense to me than you announcing this a full year before you're going to put this stuff out. So yeah, no, that was my assessment too, that this is just a big distractor round. I'm sorry, go ahead, DBQ.
No, I think that's all, right? Like, I don't know that it's worth to me spending more time. So let's move on to the next story.
So quick, I do want to go through this because Hero Down Under put it in the chat. So very quick explainer on his comment. They said they're shipping. So what he's referring to is there was a quote from Jason Ronald during this brief that that they are shipping alpha hardware next year, and I think there were some misquotes by members of the press and people on Twitter, and I think that's how the confusion got started, which it confused me too, because I swore that I saw somebody say alpha dev kits, but then when I went back and looked for the quote, they said alpha hardware. So what that means is they are shipping Xbox Helix alpha units out to developers next year. What is the difference between saying you're shipping alpha hardware versus an alpha dev kit? So a dev kit in the past, what that has been a thing that maybe it looks like the Xbox console, or maybe it looks like the console, but it doesn't look like the console. Often it looks completely different than the console looks. But it is a box that is designed for you to deploy your code, right? Because you always start your development on PC. This is a box for you to deploy your code, debug it, and test it, right? Because it gives you access to the code on the box. You can, however, do development on an Xbox Series X without it being a dev kit. You can flip it into developer mode, and then deploy your code to the box. And test it. I don't know if it gives you all the handles and levers that a dev kit does. The difference in saying you're shipping alpha hardware is you're shipping alpha hardware, you're not shipping a dev kit. Now, there is a fraudulent persona on Twitter that was putting information out that mentioned Xbox is getting rid of physical dev kits. So I don't know if that is happening. I was one of the people who participated in trying to figure out whether or not this person was not an actual Microsoft employee and was trying to chase down whether or not the photos they took at GDC were real. So I'm not putting stock in the notion that they're getting rid of physical hardware kits. What I am saying is that, well, now I might be backtracking. When I believe that this was a PC that played console games, what would make sense to me is that you could build a game for Project Helix using just the GDK, which is a software-only downloadable package that you can download to a PC. You can go out to the Microsoft website, I think to the MSDN website, and pull this down. The GDK is just a fancy name for an SDK that is just software only. And that's how you build a PC game. You build a PC game, and then you use the GDK to then integrate it with all of the Xbox services, which also exist on PC, so that people can log in with their gamer tag and blah, 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 blah. So those are the three differences. There's alpha hardware, which is just an early prototype demonstration unit of the console. There's a dev kit, which is something that's built on on the same silicon as the console, but the physical housing of it may look completely different, but it's a dev kit. And then there's the GDK SDK, which is just software only. So sorry. There's one other story that I'll mention, which I won't go into details, is that they are enabling Xbox mode in Windows. So this new story over on MSN, I think it came from PC Mag though. Microsoft's Xbox mode coming to Windows 11. DBQ, was this actually yours? Did you want to talk about it?
No, I think you threw it in here. So
I threw it in there, but if you want to just talk real quick about it, I mean,
okay. Your Windows 11 PC will soon function more like a video game console. Starting next month, Microsoft plans to roll out an Xbox mode on all Windows 11 PCs, including tablets. The new mode is called Xbox Full Screen Experience and is already available for Windows 11 gaming handhelds, such as the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X. So this is what I used to call the Harmony UI. I called it Harmony because it harmonizes Xbox with Windows. It then became known as the Fizzy, the Xbox Full Screen Experience. All along the way, I have also been calling it Xbox Big Picture mode. I deliberately call it that because I think people make a very big deal out of it, and I don't think it's a very big deal. And it's the exact same thing that Valve has done with Steam Big Picture mode. So this thing is coming to Windows 11 PCs in a month, so you will be able to try it out. I know that Fizzy has been on the Insider's Ring, and I know that
last November they put it on the Insider track
on Windows, right?
On Windows, yeah.
Okay, and I think there's some Microsoft first offered the Xbox Full Screen Experience to beta testers in the Windows Insiders program. Okay, so that's Windows Insider, yeah. So it has percolated for some time in the beta ring. So if you want to play with that, you can, and then you can make your Windows 11 PC look like an Asus ROG Xbox Ally X, and what maybe the future Xbox Helix will look like. Okay, so we covered that. Let's go ahead and wrap up with the other things that we've been playing. So today, I got back into Diablo IV on PC. The couple notes that I'll say about it is, one thing that I have to say is true every time I go back to Diablo IV is it's a beautiful looking game, and I think it has gotten better since initial launch. I often can't tell if they've improved something, or maybe I'm playing it, on a better GPU than maybe I played it at launch, and then I went back to it one other time last year, and I may be on a better GPU even now. But I've turned ray tracing on, obviously, put it in. I think now I'm playing it in 4K. I think that's the other difference, because I had historically played in 1440p, so this is really kind of the first year that I'm really playing a lot of stuff in 4K on a PC. But the game just looks gorgeous. My barbarian is level 38 now, so I've definitely got my teeth into kind of some expanded powers and combat capability. So having a lot of fun with that.
This weekend is the free Paladin preview. I jumped back in as well just to try out the Paladin. Yeah, I mean, it plays like Paladin, and some of the butcher aspects of it. So, but yeah, I was curious on what character classes you were playing. So,
yeah, I did not engage in the free Paladin thing. I just that to me felt like a demo, and I'm like, I don't, after the year we went hard on demos, I continue to not play demos. So, I'll maybe get into that when it's fully available. The other thing I've been playing has been Elden Ring, and you can see me here in West Limegrave, where I continue to grind because I always have to grind in this area before I can do anything in the game, and that's where I am still, because I've just been picking at it for like an hour at a time. And Elden Ring is one of those things where if you don't sit down and put like 5 or 6 hours into it, 4 hours into it, you only get but so far. But this is me finally capitalizing on what I said last year, which was that after playing Expedition 33, I said, okay, I'm going to go back and try some Souls games. And so now I'm finally doing that. So I am playing on PC. I am very, 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 very super frustrated that this game has been out as long as it has, and yet it is still locked at 60 frames per second on PC. I almost can't express how frustrated that makes me, because you're throwing a 4000, 5000 series GPU at it, and yet the thing is capped at 60 frames per second. it has ray tracing implemented and some other bells and whistles, but it's just frustrating. But I am trying to approach it a little more advanced than I did last time. Last time I just didn't bother parrying at all because I know I was horrible at it. But now, like I said, after having played Expedition 33, I am much more bullish on trying parries. Still not doing it great. Still trying to learn the attack patterns on these guys. There, I pulled off a successful parry and a kill shot. But yeah, I'm having fun with it. I'm also, playing. I think when I first played, I played like, I can't remember what the class is, but basically it's a serf. Like you start off with like absolutely nothing, like in your underwear. And this time I actually picked a bandit, which causes you to start at like level 5 and have some initial basic gear. So you're not so you don't start off with like a club and stick. So I'm having a little more fun with it this time because of everything that I've been through, in terms of, like I said, Expedition 33 and learning how to parry a little bit and not being so standoffish about parrying. So I'll continue to struggle through it. I think the other thing I've been playing, which involved me kind of turning the corner and getting back to some long play stuff, not just the story driven stuff, trying to mix some of that back into my rotation now as I got back to Microsoft Flight Simulator after a year of having technical problems, either getting the Xbox version of it to install or not being able to log into my Xbox account from my Steam version. A couple months ago, I had tried to get it to install on the Xbox app, and that was successful, but I didn't start playing it. So this time I ran the install, and Tao, you talk about how slow that Microsoft, like you don't know the pain of the Xbox app installation procedure until you try and install either Forza Horizon 5 or Microsoft Flight Simulator. Because Microsoft Flight Simulator downloads as like a 500 something megabyte package. And of course you do that and you're like, that can't be the whole game. Well, then when you launch that, then it downloads 150 plus gigabytes of the actual game and packages. And it takes close to an hour. And it's one of those things where, like, the problem I had last year was there was a point, like, the first 6 months of last year, where you would try that and it would get to like 97% and then it would just fail. And I'm like, again, that's one of those things I'm like, I can't express how frustrating it was, like, to sit through that and then just have it fail out. But it started working like a few months ago. Maybe it had been corrected before that. And I did hear other people having that symptom, so it wasn't just me. But that Logitech G yoke flight control system that I bought has just been sitting here collecting dust, but I finally hooked it back up, and it's been really, really fun playing with it. So here I'm flying the de Havilland Dash 8300, which is actually an aircraft that I spent a lot of time in when I used to be high travel back in the early 2000s, and flew on this aircraft a lot on commuter flights. But yeah, this is me flying a route at a Carroll Regional Airport in Baltimore to the Potomac Regional Airport, both of which I think are actually classed too small for this aircraft. So, and this is a DLC aircraft, so this has been a thing that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. Is you get a lot of content with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I have been wanting to go out and build my own like flight simulator package with like additional aircraft and airfields and other stuff. So this week I bought an audio package that does air traffic control chatter, and it will do it in real time or pre-recorded. So as you transit, through airspace for the different towers, it will track and put the background comms channel in your ear for air traffic control, make it feel a little more realistic and immersive. And then I also bought this aircraft, like I said, the de Havilland Dash 8300. So having a good time. Didn't do a great job with this mission. The approach on that Potomac Regional Airport is not a great approach, and then trying to do it in an aircraft that airfield is not really suited for was not good. So I did flip back to a smaller aircraft that I've become really familiar with and am more comfortable with to do the landing. But regardless, I'm having a great time playing it. I really enjoy. I love flying. So, Tao, you have been playing a game that's arguably more popular. Maybe more popular. I don't know. Microsoft Flight Simulator is pretty popular. So, and Diablo 4 is pretty popular. But this thing has sold, I think, 2.5 million copies in the first couple days or something like that, crazy like that.
Yeah, I think it was like 2.2 in the first 4 days. So like half of that, like 1 million of it was just in Japan alone. So it's pretty incredible. So yeah, Pokemon Pokopia. Continue playing on that like real quick. I just been unfortunately I didn't get to play a whole lot as much as I wanted to this past week, but kind of the beginning of the week and then a little bit at the end, I jumped in. I was able to jump in there. I got to I finally opened up one of the doors out of the 3 that I had found on the first level that you start off on. This little seaside kind of dock area. So I been catching. Well, I shouldn't say catching. Been opening up other Pokemon, I guess, enabling other Pokemon in that level, and then kind of flipping back to my other level. And I had a train ride to work the other day, and actually going there, I spent the whole hour retooling or redoing my storage because it was a mess. So I always like to get everything gathered in different chests and stuff like that. So I had actually unlocked a larger chest that had actually quite a lot of room, a lot more than I thought it was gonna. So I was just like going back and forth between dumping a bunch of stuff in my personal inventory so I can break down that smaller chest, and putting down the newer chest and just kind of rearranging everything. So I spent a lot of time just doing that one day. But other than that, like I said, just going around, just opening up more Pokemon and just still just having a lot of fun with it. I've unlocked some more housing, so that's which is the one interesting thing, which is kind of, I guess, weird. So you can do these like prefabbed houses that you can do, like little huts and stuff too. There's like sand and grass, and then there's like bigger like houses. But once you get those built, you can go in those, or you can actually have one of the Pokemon just the Pokemon live in that house, which I thought was kind of weird. So I've been trying to do that more. I think that's one of my I don't want to say quest, but more of a challenge. There's like kind of challenges that you give you, like most games have nowadays. So I've been kind of just rolling through that. And then there's an event that started up, I think Wednesday or Thursday last week, with just during these events you can only get these certain Pokemon. Like they don't appear any other time during the game. So I've been trying to kind of grind on that too. So yep, still having a lot of fun with it.
Very cool. And I haven't got a chance to start, but I did pick up Monster Hunter Stories 3. And I cannot remember what the subtitle of that is. But I picked that up on Xbox and haven't had a chance to start it yet. But something I expect to get into next week.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear about that because I know that's kind of old school Pokemon like. So,
of course, I say that it's my intention to get into it next week. But next week is the first, what I would call the full blown barn burner of releases for 2026. There's 7 significant titles coming out next week, and that's after we have triaged down to the ones that we felt were important enough to mention. There's still other stuff coming out next week. So Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War comes out for PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch 2 on March 16th. So that's actually tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, we get MLB The Show 26. And of course, the early access version of that, I think, is out for people to get into.
Yep, started on the 13th.
Yep. But the formal version comes out for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch on March 17th. So that's very interesting. So there's not a Switch 2 specific version this year. Man, missed opportunity. Also on March 17th is Dead Zone Rogue Switch 2. I put that in here because we talked about that last week or a week before when we talked about the Indie Showcase, Nintendo Indie Showcase. A game that's important to me and near and dear to my heart is Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun, coming out in a Switch 2 version on Wednesday, March 18th. And on Thursday, the long vaunted and perhaps infamous Crimson Desert arrives for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Also on that same day, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach comes to PC on March 19th. And then finally, for those who are interested, I mentioned this because I've been recently playing Dynasty Warriors Origins on the Steam Deck. Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered. Now, Tao, I'm not the expert on Dynasty Warriors lore and in chronology. Which is this a game that preceded Origins?
Yeah, this is an older one. I probably played this originally back in the day. So yeah.
Okay, so Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered comes out for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 2, Switch, and PC, also on Thursday, the 19th of March. Okay, that's going to do it for us, for everything that we had in the rundown tonight. Quite lengthy, meaty episode. Next week, DBQ Hams will be the primary host, while Tao and I fly co-pilot. Gentlemen, anything else we need to mention tonight, or anything else you want to talk about? Okay, well, thanks a lot, everybody, for everybody who came through the chat. Hero Down Under, Innate. Thank you guys very much. I think we had a couple other people out there lurking, so we appreciate everybody who comes through and attends the live show. We appreciate you. Just checking to see if okay, Real Innate is happy I picked up Monster Hunter Stories 3. He picked it up on PC at 165 frames per second. Nice. We got one game left for this one. That Crimson Desert, and if that lives up to the hype, yes, the same thing. I'm keeping my side eye on that game to see if it sticks the landing. Especially, I want to hear how. I do want to hear how it plays on regular consoles, on the base consoles. Although that may not keep me from picking it up on PC or PS5, since I have a PS5 Pro. But I want to hear a little bit more about like a full blown review of it, not just the Digital Foundry tech assessment. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who happened to attend the live show. For anybody who happens to come through and watch the VOD of this on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we post new content. Until next time, good night, good luck, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like. Come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic for the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, here with my co-hosts DBQ Hams and Towmaster99. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.